So this is going to be a video about dog tags. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of them, but I really want to dig deeper into Civil War dog tags. So what is a dog tag? A dog tag is kind of slang for a piece of metal, something durable that an army, now I'm just going to say army, but this means Marines and Navy, Coast Guard, all that stuff, that an army would issue to a soldier that they would typically wear around their neck, and it would have all of their information on it, like their name. Well, let me just say this. When I went in the early 1980s, my dog tags, they were always issued in pairs, had my name, my social security number, my blood type in case I needed transfusion, and my religious preference. And that could be Baptist or Catholic or, whatever religion you follow. Modern dog tags, and I'll kind of flip the time frame a little bit because I question what's on them. I looked it up online and I got confusing information. One site said that they have your name, your social security number, blood type, religious preference, just like they did in the early 1980s. But another site said they have your name and a military ID number, not just social security number. And I kind of think that's probably true, because if someone found your dog tags, at the beach or maybe on the bar floor after a fight, if they had your social security number, they could do identity theft on you. So I'm kind of believing that it's a separate service number now. And if any of you veterans out there, or maybe you're in the service still watching this video, can tell me if it's a service number now, I'd really appreciate that, because I don't know. All right, so let's jump back a few years to World War II. And they were issued dog tags that looked almost identical to what we have today. But the information was a little bit different. It would have your name on it. And this is the beginning of World War II, because they changed it a little bit, and I'll tell you why. In the beginning, it had your name, your next of kin's name. So it might have your mother's name, or it might have your wife's name. It would have a service number. It would have your blood type. It would have your home address, and it would have vaccination status, sometimes, like for tetanus. Later in the war, they changed it, because having all that information on the tag, especially your wife's name and where she lived, could be used against you, like with psychological torture, if the enemy captured you. So they got rid of that later in the war. All right, let's step back to World War I. Okay. During World War I, they issued 2 tags, and I have one from a relative, and it's basically just a round aluminum disc with their name in it and a service number, and on the back, if you flip it over, is stamped USA. So that's the information on a World War I tag. So my question to you, and what the bread and butter of this video is about, is what kind of dog tag do you think was issued to Civil War soldiers so they could be identified on the battlefield? What do you think it looked like? What information was on those tags? Well, those of you that have watched some of my videos know that they didn't issue dog tags to Civil War soldiers. So if you went out into battle and you were killed, if someone didn't recognize you, one of your buddies after the battle didn't say, yeah, that's Billy Bob Yuckapuck, they may not be able to identify your body, and you would be listed as unknown and buried as unknown. Now, soldiers didn't like that, because, of course, they wanted to be remembered, and they wanted their family to know what happened to them. And so what they would do, one of the things they would do is they get a piece of paper and a pencil, and they write their name on it, maybe the unit, whatever, and then pin it to their clothes. That way, if they were killed, they could be easily identified. The family would be notified that they were killed, and if they wanted to, and this happened quite often, the family would come down and retrieve the body from the battlefield, dig it up if it was in a shallow grave, bring it home, and put it in their, family cemetery, or the cemetery at that church, close to where they lived. And that happened quite a bit. Now, the problem is that if you just take a piece of paper and write in pencil your information, say it rains that night, before they collect your body, or your body could lay out there for days or weeks, or in some cases even years, the paper could be damaged, and they can't read your information, so you become unknown. Again, unknown grave. Your family's never notified that you were killed. I guess they probably said you were missing in action at some point. Some people recognized that there was a need for some type of identification that a soldier could wear that was durable, like made out of metal so it wouldn't rot in the rain. And what they did, these individuals or businesses, private, they came up with an idea of selling soldiers ID discs in pins that had the information on it. And this might be sold by a sutler, which is a private individual that would follow along behind the army. Maybe, I think every regiment pretty much had one. And they would sell the soldiers extra things that they might like. It might be sweets, might be tobacco, might be socks, extra food, pens and paper. But another thing they carried were ID discs and ID pins that a soldier could come up to them and buy, and the seller would actually put the information that whatever the soldier wanted on these discs. And like the one I showed you recently, I have one from Corporal Tilton Sleeper. It has his name, it has where he's from, it has his unit, and if he was ever killed in battle, that would probably be on a chain around his neck so they could identify his body. And the interesting thing about the ID disc I showed you, it's from Corporal Tilton Sleeper of the 2nd Vermont Volunteer Infantry, Company D. When I was online looking for information on current dog tags, there was a dog tag shown from the Civil War on Wikipedia, and it's from a lieutenant in the 2nd Vermont, I think Company K, the Vermont Volunteers. So my soldier and that lieutenant probably knew each other, which I think is pretty cool. So let's look at some of the discs that you could buy. They had several varieties. Of course, the one that's, the Tilton Sleeper has an eagle on the front and War of 1861 information on the back. So the second one I have is a bust of General McClellan. And the back, of course, was blank, but when the soldier went to buy it, they stamped his information on it. And you can see that the sutler probably messed up because the letter started, and then the very next letter they would have needed for his name would have been like right over that hole. So I suspect the soldier said, I ain't paying for that. So the sutler took it and just pitched it in the woods, and I found it 130 years later. Another kind you can find is a pin. Now this would be worn like here, and it had a pin on the back to attach it. But if you look, the pin is broken off. And every one of this type that I've ever found, well, I found 2, I've seen at least a half a dozen more found, the pin's always broken. And it has a horse that is prancing, and the information that the soldier put on there is engraved kind of small all around the edge. All right, so that's one type of pin. Another type of pin could be like this silver, and they made them in gold. There's a silver pin that you would have worn right here and have your information engraved on it. And this is another one right here that I found, and you can see you can't really read the soldier's name, and I don't think I ever really figured out exactly who this is yet, but the pins are broken off these as well. Now there are other kinds of pins that are sold. This just give you an idea of what a soldier would have to buy with his own money if he wanted to be identified on the battlefield if he was killed. But before we go, let me just talk about Civil War stencils, because you guys might find these and not even realize what they are. A stencil is a thin piece of copper that a soldier would have his name and unit on or whatever, that he could put against something, paint over it, and those letters would be on that object. And they could use it over and over and over again. And I got a couple here. One is from Dwight something of the Company I, 21st New York. I was actually able to find him. And another one over here is really interesting. It just has his first initials, IA, and his last name, Moore. And because of where I found it, I was actually able to research to figure out exactly who that was too. So I think that's kind of interesting. Now you diggers might find a stencil like this, and it might be all balled up. So I have found other types of stencils that are all balled up. So if you ever find a thin piece of copper that looks like junk, don't throw it away right away. Try to unfold it and see if it might be one of these stencils. Oh, here's another lesson for you guys at Metal Tech. These kind of thinnish copper ID badges. When I found my first one, it read very low on the meter. It was like a little ball of aluminum that you might get out of a cigarette pack, and I almost didn't dig it. but I did, and that's why I always tell you when you're in Civil War camps, dig all of the non-ferrous signals, signals that you know aren't iron. Dig them all, even the shell signals, because you might run over something, might leave something like this on the ground. All right, come here, kitty. I hope this video made sense to you, and I hope you enjoyed it. And next time what we're going to do, well, maybe in the future, is we're going to make a video on how to research these guys and get more information than just, putting their names in and find a grave with a picture of the headstones, because most of these guys you can do that. But I'm going to show you how to research and get some really cool stuff, and I'm going to share with you some of that really cool stuff. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Curly says, thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one, I hope.
Mother Earth has no sympathy. She'll take the ring from your hand and bury it in the sand and keep it for eternity. Mother Earth, she's got her secrets she's promised to keep, hidden in her dirt or deep in her creek. Mother Earth, she ain't saying exactly what she's saving.